Hi there, and welcome to the Conscious Rising podcast. I'm your host, Emma from Unique Phoenix. And I want to honour that there has been a recent change in this podcast. It was previously called Connected Conversations, and there was a lot of interview style within this. And over time, as we expand and evolve, as have I, and I recognize that I'm really here for your rising. I, as a leadership coach, work with leaders and business owners and entrepreneurs, creating limitless leadership through our deep innate wisdom in emotional intelligence, in mindset, connection, and communication. So I want to honor the podcast that has been the Connected Conversations, and not to say I will not be sharing conscious rising with other beautiful souls that are in their own path and in their own business and serving others. However, there has been a shift in what those conversations will look like. So I want to say thank you to everyone that's been part of it up till now. And you will see a slight shift. Excuse me, I have a little croak in my throat. So I want to start there and say thank you. And if you've been on the journey with me, well, excuse me, welcome to the evolution. So for the first Conscious Rising episode, I wanted to talk about shame. And how this came up was through, I'm just going to move this back a little bit. Yeah, there we go. How this came up and showed up is I have been not rewriting, but just tweaking the way that I present the content and the wisdom of Unleash Beyond, which is a 6-week journey and exploration into career, relationships, health, loving self. It's a group coaching container, and week 1 is really powerful, and we go like, let's just fucking dive in to emotional structure. And emotional structure, there's a lot of talk around emotional regulation, and really as adults we need to get to a place where we understand that we're beyond emotional regulation, that emotional regulation is something that we learn in childhood. Yeah. And when we reach adulthood, we really need to be moving on and through into our emotional structure, because it's not going to be the same for everybody. Emotional regulation is simply about being able to regulate your emotions. And I laugh because I use the term vomit your feelings over everybody. Now, how did I come to this? Through my own personal lessons, I'll be honest, I'll be really honest. Up until about 10 years ago, I don't really think I had emotional regulation down pat either, and I definitely had no emotional structure. So over that time in my own journey, in working with clients, in learning and growing and expanding, and working with other amazing teachers and healers and guides, I've really come to understand, and it's why it's within the work that I do, that emotional structure is adult. It's the grown-up version. And we're grown up. I want to be an adult. So we have to move into that space. No one else is fucking responsible for how you feel. That's part of emotional regulation, is learning that. But once you're in emotional structure, you're not learning that anymore. You are in that. And so what was interesting to me, what came up and what's driven this is the countless conversations that I've had in session with clients and with friends and seeing it. Because, shame has a really insidious nature in our lives, and it's woven throughout the whole fabric of our society. We only have to watch ads for a short amount of time on TV to know how manipulative and shame-based. They want to poke at that shame for you. Same as any health. Same as a lot of the stuff that comes up in relationships. Having emotional regulation is that responsibility that you know your past is going to be triggered at some stage. And shame being our biggest, most held emotion that we have, it's going to rise to the surface. Now you can do that unconsciously. You can just keep going on, keep being triggered, you keep being activated and, firing at people, vomiting your feelings, not being responsible for them, numbing out, not wanting to know. You can keep doing all of those things in your unconscious living, or you can begin to move into the conscious part of your life. And so let's talk about what else shame can show up as first, because I think it's really important that we have that foundation. Shame, for me, it's the umbrella. It's the umbrella, and all of these drip underneath it. But effectively, shame is the emotion. And I know people like to separate out guilt, but I don't really know how that's possible. And I've done a lot of reading on this over the years, over the past 10 to 15 years. I've really tried to understand my own shame and watched a lot of great and amazing people. However, there's always still holes in there for me. So what sits underneath shame? That being the simple emotion. Just to go back a second, what I want to explain is, and share with you, is what I came to understand in the learning and growing and in the research and working with people around this and having amazing guides, is that we want to complicate the fuck out of our emotions. We do. However, they're actually not that complicated. They are a really simple part of our life when we're conscious of them. But when we're not conscious of them, oh my God, they are just this fucking spider web of triggers and blocks and fuck shit all the time. And I'll admit that there are times when I have to remind myself to live in this wisdom, to live in the simplicity of the emotion in my body. Yeah, because it's not in my brain. Let's be really clear on that. Emotions are not in your brain. Emotions connect your brain connects to your body and says, hey, I got a story for you. I remember when, this is the same as. And so then that emotion that we've experienced in the present moment has a whole story and gets bigger and gets this. You were so right to feel that. This is the brain talking. You're so right to feel that because I've got a story. You are so correct. We know this feeling. And so that's what makes it so complicated, right? Because all of these emotions that I'm about to mention that we've given names to and are valid, I'm not saying that they're not valid, but they all connect back to shame. Yeah? So, also known as jealousy, humiliation, embarrassed, ashamed, it's clear, degraded, disgraced, comparison, guilt, mortified. I mean, you can add more in there. I'm pretty sure you can find some more in there. This tricky little, it's not tricky at all. It is very simple. Now, all of those you might say, like humiliate. Well, someone humiliated me. Okay, let's get to that. Someone degraded me. Someone embarrassed me. someone made me jealous. But again, can hear and begin to understand that this is actually in the realm, this language that we're using, what we're talking about, is in emotional regulation. And it's in your learning phase, your child phase. Yeah. Now, technically, biologically, our brains reach adulthood. For women, anywhere 23 to 25, 27. For men, it can come later, and it can be anywhere from 23 up to 30. So, for men and women do reach a level of maturity in that adult brain where we go from the tunnel vision to this wide view. We know that life isn't always going to be like that forever, that it changes, we grow, because we've reached our full growth. And so then our lens can change and our viewpoint can change. And within that, our emotional understanding can change. And that's when it widens to understand that we have a structure. The fact that no one else can really humiliate us, yeah? Yes, we can feel humiliation because of, when we're a kid and someone stupid comes up and pulls your pants down or pulls your dress up and, not cool. And you're going to feel humiliation. You might feel that when someone calls you out for your shit behavior, yeah? So the difference between emotional regulation and emotional structure is emotional structure has integrity, it has responsibility, it has accountability. Emotional regulation does not have integrity or responsibility. It has a lot of learning in there, yeah? It has a checklist. You must do this to feel regulated. But as an adult, if you have structure, you're not needing to tick boxes, because you'll have that sense of yourself. You'll have the ability to have the grace to stop, to pause, to not react but respond. So it's completely different, yeah? And so it's always interesting to me, and when I kept uncovering it, that jealousy and comparison land in the world of shame as the emotion. And because that's what's happening when you're comparing yourself to someone else, you are placing a shame on yourself. Well, look at them, they are better than me because of this, this and this, or God, they're so much further than I am, why aren't I there? And it creates a sense of shame in your body. It's the same as guilt. Guilt's a byproduct of shame. Oh, beautiful. When you've done something shit, and you've done something outside of your moral compass, outside of your integrity, then you feel guilt, which it sits under the umbrella of shame. Same as jealousy. Yeah? It's a real, and so that's what I mean. Shame is insidious. It shows up in so many areas of our lives. And as a kid and as a teenager and as an adult child, and so we're clear, you're going to hear me use language over time, and no longer am I using the term young adult for someone who is 18, 19, 20, because they haven't even begun reaching adulthood. They're a grown child. Yeah, they're getting into the grown years of being a child, but they're still a child. I don't know about you, but I know plenty of 18 and 19-year-olds not grown up. No, not even close. 23, 24, 25, you can start to see the shift, and that biological shift occurs in the brain. So what does shame do? That's the umbrella of, what you can find underneath it, right? All of those emotions and the labels that we give them, yeah? And you've probably got plenty of fucking stories that are coming up right now going, oh my God, I remember when I was jealous and guilt and, disgraced and degraded and da-da-da. And, excuse me, I want to say, start looking at what you're watching through the lens of this. And I guarantee you it will have less influence. When you can start to see you're being shamed into, the influence that they want to have over you through comparison, through jealousy, yeah? Or, being made to feel ashamed, I guarantee you. Or mortified. And that's like, mortified is like a serious level of embarrassment, isn't it, really? It's like that higher level of it. It's sort of even above humiliation, really. So start looking through what you are viewing, the information that's going in through the lens of shame. And I just wonder what that changes for you. It was incredibly powerful when I began doing this. And the level of influence shifted. It really shifted from an outside perspective to an internal one. And I recognized how much shame was running the show. And so it came up today when I was writing this. Not the content's still the same. I've been talking about this stuff for a long time. However, the way that I'm presenting it, I was making a change in the workshop style and format. And it's a really powerful way. Same info, but just shifting some stuff around has really been incredible as well. However, what came up for me was a few shame stories. One was in a relationship where I recognised that I was doing a couple of things that I'll mention in a minute. And the other, that was the first level. That was the first thing that came up. And I thought, okay, this is almost like a surface level of what's actually sitting here. What actually is this feeling of shame? And I'll get to how it shows up in your body as well. Like, let's just be really clear and let's do some basics around shame today, yeah? So I recognized that it was around business and it was around how I was showing up. And there was a lot of me shaming myself, yeah? And, while I'm saying it, almost, that label of embarrassment, because embarrassed that I wasn't, like, I've been in this growth and development space for 20 years, been working with clients for 7. And, further to that was working in a coaching space, not in my own business, for a long time as well. So, and team building and management roles. So in leadership roles for a long time. And so there was a level of embarrassment. Well, you should know better, Emma, because why are you hiding? Oh my God. And I could feel the stories that it was attached to as well. I could feel why, I was listening to other people over the years, comparing me to others. Well, you need to look at what this person is doing because you could be doing the same thing. And of course, that I allowed that to create a shame feeling in my body and a shame story. And once it creates, the shame is I'm going to keep saying it, it's our most powerful emotion that we have available to us. And if you are running it unconsciously, fucking hell, your life is never going to feel like it's your own. You're always going to be in a comparative state. You're always going to have pangs of jealousy. You are going to be in a state of emotionally regulating your shame for the rest of your life. And that's really hard work, man. That is really fucking hard work. And I can tell you, when I jumped off that train, that hard work train around shame, I mean, do I still jump on? Yeah. Do I still watch the train go by every now and again and stay for longer than I actually need to? I might jump on a carriage and hang around for a little bit longer. I don't know why I'm using the analogy of a train, but here I am. Let's go for it. But you know what I mean. Get on the roller coaster, get off it, get on, get off, get off. Get on, get on, get on, get off for a long time. You know what I'm saying? And because it takes a long time. I had a heap of shame stories going on in my life. Heaps of experiences that created it. So when people were comparing me and telling me I needed to compare myself, then of course, I kept it going. I believed them. I was placing my value in the unconscious shame that was going on around me and in me. when you become more and more conscious of this, then you will stop doing the things that shame does unconsciously for you. It hides you. It hides you from yourself even. Yeah, but you will hide yourself from the world, put on a multitude of masks so you don't have to be seen, show up in ways that you think others want to see you, but in fact you're actually hiding. It stops you from moving forward, so it freezes you. Yeah, it freezes you and keeps you in one place because what you think is, well, I can't achieve anything else. And that is the emotion of shame. And it's the connection of stories that are going on in this crazy, fucking amazing mind of yours that when given the chance to run the show, it's not your heart that you're following. And as I mentioned, you put on masks to cover who you really are, your truth. Shame is a real emotion of truth. And I wonder if you're listening to this now and you're thinking, how can shame be a good emotion? Like, and when we're talking about it from this aspect, from this unconscious viewpoint, 100%, it's a really heavy, hard, tiring, I don't even have the word for it, but you already do. I can feel you saying words, a fucked up emotion. However, I'm going to go through a couple more layers till we get to, what is actually the purpose of shame? Because it does have one. And how can you begin taking steps today? So shame will have language. And I used it before when I used the term should. Now, should for me is a language around I'm shaming myself. I should be in, because really just shitting all over yourself. Should, is the action of have to. It's almost like that obligation that sits there. I have to do that because there's a guilt associated with if you don't do it. And then who are you doing it for? You're not doing it for yourself. So shame language comes, and look, we could talk about this for a long time in terms of what that looks like. But this is the stuff that is really potent and powerful when it's done through Unleash Beyond the group container, through working one-on-one with me. As we get to know each other and deepen the relationship, then more and more you will see how much shame language, how much it's attached to your life. And with awareness, you can make changes. But shame comes up in the way that you will degrade yourself, that you won't value yourself, that you will lessen who you are because you think it's what's needed around you. It's a comparison. Well, they need me to be a different way so they can, you're never actually in your truth. You're never actually doing what it is that you want to do. So shame language is huge. If you are talking down to yourself, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a reflective practice in your life that says, that wasn't my best. Maybe I'll make a different choice next time. I'm getting to it. Hold with me. I'm going to give you a really powerful, we go into this so much deeper, but let me give it to you now though, because it's so powerful and you can begin to bring it in. So shame language, when you're talking about I can't do something because, you're stopping yourself. If you're talking through your limitations, if you're talking about your lack of value, if you're talking about just not wanting to show up somewhere because of what other people might think or feel. These are shame-based practices. If you feel like you have to put on a mask and be someone different and can't, and like you're too much, not enough, whatever. And I can tell you, that shows up. For so many coaches, you get this feeling that you got to show up in this like Zen fucking Yoda space, right? Like you know it all. I don't fucking know it all, and I don't want to know it all. Where would the fun be in life? However, if you'd asked me that 10 years ago, I would have been wanting to show up in like bright, shiny, I've got my shit together, I know what's going on. No. In the relationship that I mentioned before, I can actually feel there is a distinct, and I've done it, it's a pattern that I've had where I will put a mask on of I'm going with the flow, I'm super easygoing, because I don't want to be too much. But then I'm not showing up in my power. I'm not showing up in my truth. And that's my greatest gift, is the vulnerability of my truth, whatever that is. So if my language is always positive and always, I've got this, then I know I'm not showing up in my truth. I know I'm showing up from the perspective of shame and living through that story. Yeah? So how does shame show up in the body? Now, there's lots of tell signs, like when you're speaking to someone, if they're telling you something difficult and they're looking down and not wanting to meet you in the eye, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are lying to you. It means that they're maybe not able to share it because they're feeling some shame around it. It's like when people say, about their feelings, or why they did something. Oh, I don't know. You know why you did something, but quite often you feel shame and you don't want to share it. If your concern is, placed in what other people are thinking, and you're worried about it, I mean, if you feel like you're going to be embarrassed to share it, if you feel like it'll make you less than, it's hiding you, right? So then it's shame that's stopping you from sharing how you feel, why you did something. But here's the thing. When you share it and say it out loud and tell someone your truth, it's fucking freeing, right? So shame, that's a tell sign, right? When someone has a nervous laugh, when, people will say, oh, I don't know why I did that. Yeah, you do. You know what? You know what? You know why you did it. You don't want to tell me. You don't want to tell us. You don't want to tell the other person. You don't want to say it out loud, because if you do, there's some shame that's attached to it. And that can be from an experience of the past. So many reasons. Like I said, when we are trying to experience our emotions from our brain stories, they're not real for starters. But two, they're super fucking complicated because there is a whole neural pathway attached to that emotion with a whole plethora of stories spanning across decades. Well, decades for me. I'm in my 40s, so you might be a bit younger. So the other place that shame shows up in your body is how you feel when you experience it. And normally it's a sick feeling. Yeah? And that's how I knew when I started writing up, and changing the content and writing week 1, I was like, oh my God. I felt enormously sick. I was shaming myself. Why didn't you know this before, Emma? Why didn't you do this? Oh, fuck. Because I didn't fucking know about it before. I just learned it recently. Expanding and growing all the time. Cut yourself some slack, So it shows up as that sick little, and sometimes it can feel like nervous, excited. That's a slightly different emotion there, but it's that sick, sinking feeling. You will have another level of it because there is, when you're trying to ignore shame, right? When you're trying to be like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. Like ignoring it, numbing it, zoning out from it. Quite often you'll get this over sense of confidence and you feel, it's like you puff out like, What are you talking about? I can't possibly be wrong. I don't feel that way. I don't feel bad about what I did. I'm good. I'm okay. So you might have that puffed up, I've got to be bigger, bolder than what I... And that was mine. So many years ago, I would have described myself as big, bold, bright and shiny. Just trying to cover over the shame, man. Not wanting to feel it, acknowledge it. Well, fuck. It comes around, and all the work that I've done, it still comes back. But over the past 5 years, I've really leaned into it. And do I know all sides of me and all of the connections to it? No. Am I willing to acknowledge them and allow them to rise? Yeah. And that's who I work with. If you're ready to acknowledge and are willing to rise, my God, we can go so deep. We can get to those parts of you that you haven't wanted to go to, but they will free you. They will free you. And the conscious rising that you will do is exquisite. Just exquisite. And when you add that into the leadership role, if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, a business leading a team or teams, my goodness, it is absolutely crazy what can be achieved when you're at that conscious level of living. So that's how it shows up in the body. And it will also show up as anxiety as well. Yeah, that quite often shame-based, an expression of it, a manifestation and an external expression is through anxiety. Yeah, because you're trying to hide parts of you that you feel aren't worthy, that you're ashamed of, that you don't want others to see. And these are the most beautiful parts of you. I've had the gift of working with so many people, and there's a moment, and I've done it myself, there's a moment where I drop into myself more deeply, and it's beautiful witnessing that, it's beautiful seeing that. And what it does to everyone around you is, particularly when you're in a leadership role, people are looking at you as a higher influence because you're willing to be seen. Yeah, you're willing to show parts of you because you can hold yourself. And that doesn't matter if you're male or female, you will do it differently. It will not be the same, and it will not look the same. Hiding will generally look the same because effectively, if you've got a leader that is hiding, you will have had a thought of, they are an arsehole. Oh my God, they're so, far out. You're not looking at them for influence. You're just not. And if you feel that from your team, then I guarantee you've got to lean into shame. So, what is the purpose of shame, right? Well, fuck, we feel this emotion. It's insidious. I'm telling you all this bad shit, right? It has all these shitty little parts to it. Is there a fucking purpose to it? Or do we just keep ignoring it and pretending like life is sunshine and moonbeams? No, please don't do that. No. The purpose of shame, it's your moral compass. It's your integrity, your compass that keeps you on a track where you are making choices that feel good to you, right? What choices feel good to me and my moral compass and my integrity? Is it going to be the same as yours? No! And it doesn't have to be. Yeah? So that's the purpose, because it helps you look after yourself, mind, body, soul. If there are areas of your life that aren't feeling particularly good to you, I guarantee you it is because you are making choices that are outside of your integrity. Yeah? If you're experiencing health challenges, if you're experiencing relationship issues, career's not quite where you want it to be, or you have the career but no connection, it's kind of like an empty power-filled environment, and it's not fulfilling, and it's hard work, and you're having to work 80 hours a week. Put the reverse on. You've gone the wrong way. And I promise you there's a lot of shame-based behavior in there and a lot of shame-based choices that are going on. And here's the thing that unlocks it. It's one question, right? Because shame's a really beautiful emotion. It is. It's our most vulnerable, which is hard because we do have sorrow in there, but shame is what leads us to that. So quite often, not always, but quite often. So the question that when shame arises within you is, do I feel good about my choice? So if you're having health or career or family, relationships blocked, I want you to start asking yourself, do I feel good about my choice? And if one of your answers is, I don't have a choice, then you are in a state and living through the emotion and the lens of shame in your life. Because you are allowed to feel really great about your choices. You are allowed to be following the path and the direction in your heart in terms of your life. That's actually what you're meant to be doing. If you're living a life of obligation, then I guarantee there's a lot of shame-based behavior going on. So, yes, it's not an easy thing to switch off, but just asking yourself that question, do I feel good about my choice? And then just you've got to be truthful and have the integrity to be truthful with yourself. What comes up for you in that question? I know for many of my clients, I was an incredible challenge for them to even ask of themselves. And the next one was my choice. But, I would sit there with someone arguing with themselves about how they had to consider everyone else in their life. But when you are following the truth of your own choices and the truth of what is in integrity to you and that structure that's within your heart and moving forward through that, then your life considers everybody else that's in it anyway. It just does. Yeah, they're included. They're part of it. They're respected and loved because you are being in a state of respect and love for yourself. And that's, when you are living in that conscious state of shame, it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place of awareness, of understanding, of growing, expanding, deepens your relationships, it excels careers, it changes the face of what happens within teams, the integrity, the communication. Welcome to Conscious Rising. I'm going to leave you with that thought. Do I feel good about my choice? And I truly want to hear from you what came up. Could you even ask yourself that question? It's okay. You've got to have a starting point somewhere. But how did that go for you? Are there choices in your life that you make moment to moment that you think, maybe I'm not consciously making that choice? Thank you for sharing your time and energy. And I look forward to being here next time. And if you want to get in contact with me, please head to my website, which is www.emmamuir, which is 1M. The link will be below. .com. You can head there and find a way to connect with me. You can find me on Instagram. The links will be below. You can find me on Facebook as well or LinkedIn. So many ways to connect with me and begin your conscious rising so that you can experience limitless leadership in your life. And that doesn't have to refer just to your business, to your work. If you want to lead your life from an internal place in terms of relationships, health, this is what limitless leadership is all about, leading from within. Enjoy your beautiful day and share, like, comment. I'm here to support you in your growth to limitless leadership, to conscious rising. From me to you, much love.